Hello, I'm back. Listen, I know you've just seen me in house coats lately, but I don't go back to work until the 5th of January. No fireplace, Roku City. We're just gonna deal. Um, yeah, and I've just been so lazy. And also, it's storming here right now, so where am I gonna go, right? All right, let's continue and finish off this chapter. Now, I hope you got a chance to go and see that interview. That was linked in the last video in the description. I'd like to know what you think of her demeanor. I would say body language, but she's just kind of sitting. So, I don't know. Okay. Of course, Timmy is... Hold on, just 1 second. Timmy is eating barbecue chips. They say that rabbits aren't supposed to eat anything except like their kibbles and hay. He's a machine. He just goes through everything. And I have never seen him have any gastro... Oh. What's the matter? Anyway, I try to keep him away from as much as I can. But he loves chips. He really, really does. And the rabbits I had when I was a kid, they also ate everything and they lived a long time. Anyway, okay. Where were we? Oh, yes. So she was saying, like, why couldn't we just stay friends? She's talking about how Ronald is always leaving her little notes, always leaving, like, I love you, written and placed in her car when she's trying to leave. And she's getting so exasperated. Anyway. And then we were talking about how I'm going to do my bangs tonight, guys. I keep meaning to, so I am going to do like a couple wispies in the middle and then keep like the long side ones. But yeah, wish me luck and pray I don't ruin myself. Anyway, my father always told me when I was growing up, if you can be a person who learns from the mistakes of others, you will be a happy person, because there are so many things that you can learn without having to go through it yourself. Some people can only learn from Timmy. Okay. Some people can only learn by going through it themselves, but if you can train yourself to learn from other people's mistakes in addition to, you will be much happier. And my goodness, not that we all needed a lesson on why not to cheat with someone else's husband. But man, look, she had this really incredible opportunity, like she did. She had this really incredible opportunity. However, we also need to take into account, like, would she have had this incredible opportunity had Ronald Ferguson not thought that he could jump into bed with her? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. But she did have this great opportunity, and it could have been this like annual thing, and then it was just one time. And you know what? The one that I saw online that was like International Women's it's like very small, and it was held Manipur in India, and it says the 4th annual International Women's but the 4th since 1991, and that was in 2019 or something, and then it looks like they haven't had another one since. So my point is, like, only the 4th, and I don't think she was involved in it at all. It's just sad, like that could have been something really huge. It could have really meant something. I don't know. It just could have been such a big deal, and it's just, what a letdown, But I just wonder, what would have happened to Leslie Player if... Okay, because I think what happened is that someone on her staff leaked a letter from Ronald Ferguson to the newspapers. And then, no, Joey. No. You have to get down. Go on. Then everything kind of blew up. But what would have happened if she had just zip? I just really wondered, like, where her life would have gone if she had just been discreet and not written this book. I mean, it would have taken a while. Oh, there's one thing I forgot to tell you. She came out with a decoupage book in 1998. Yeah. Which is so random. That's the one other thing I could find from her is from 98. A how-to decoupage. And I'm going to try to get my paws on it here in the new year. Because isn't that strange? I thought maybe it was a different Leslie Player, but it was published in the UK. Are there that many Leslie Players running around? And you would think that even in 98, if someone had the name Leslie Player and it wasn't that Leslie Player, they would find a way to, they would add in their middle name or they would do something to sort of separate themselves, right? Anyway, yeah, very strange. Decoupage. All right, let's keep going. Joseph, don't start. Don't start. Okay. On that day of the final, Sunday, 18 August, I sat in the crowded main stand, savoring my success. Our success. Ronald had been my mentor and guiding star. After all. Ronald had been my mentor and guiding star, after all. There. Okay. I was wearing a dazzling outfit of brocaded silk and felt like $1,000,000,000. Nothing was going to spoil this day, which had been my life for more than a year. I pushed the lingering doubts away. They would resurface later, as they had all week, and allowed a surge of pride to replace them as a familiar ramrod straight figure, as tall in the saddle as the white knight came trotting into view below the fluttering banners. On his magnificent chestnut pony Pacific, a gift from Prince Charles, Major Ronald Ferguson looked as distinguished as I had ever seen him. He was in his black and white striped shirt that marked the uniform of chief umpire, a position he deserved and naturally relished. Beneath the maroon helmet, his keen, austere gaze, suitably stern, missed nothing. But now and then I would catch a glance in my direction, and a small nod, imperceptible to anyone else. Even the TV commentator felt impelled to remark, Major Ferguson may look grim, but like the rest of us, he must be amazed at the physical commitment of these women. Physical it certainly was. England were up in the finals against a keen, strong, totally committed team from Boston. The underdogs whom no one had given a chance of going beyond the first round. Now they were fired up and straining at the leash. One girl had already been knocked flying and her pony sent rolling in the grass when another rider crashed headlong into her. Somehow no one was hurt. Another of our ladies had an eye that was swollen to the size of a plum and was about the same color after the ball struck her. Oh, you could lose an eye with a polo ball hitting your eyeball. England were still odds-on favorites, but wise old Ronald, summing up our chances, had cautioned, Boston will give you a run for your money. As usual, when it came to polo, he was right. The Bostonians led by 5.5 points to 5 until seconds before the end. But almost on the stroke of time, Claire Tomlinson galloped through the pack and slammed the ball across the line to win for England by the narrowest possible margin, 6 points to 5.5. A final blast from the hooter, no whistles in polo, and the game was over, and the tournament with it. Thrilling stuff, summed up by my other staunch friend, Jilly Cooper, in her typically effusive style. It was a brave, wonderful, glorious final, and about me, Leslie has worked and worked, and so did today, As the trophy, almost too heavy to lift, was presented to Claire, I quietly thanked Jilly. "You're a treasure," I told her. She gave me her famous gap-tooth smile, the second time she has described Jilly Cooper in this exact way. "You deserve it," she said. Then, with strange foresight, "The problem's going to be, how do you follow that?" I don't know. I just get so annoyed by all the foreshadowing. A traditional jazz band had started up on the lawns. 5 jovial men in straw boaters and striped blazers blaring happily away with trombones and ukuleles. People crowded around me to shake my hand and say, "Well done, brilliant, a lovely week." But I felt a sudden pang, a curious emptiness that was totally unexpected in the middle of all the bustle, and therefore all the more unsettling. Ronald's big frame loomed beside me, and for a moment we were alone in the throng. He saw my face and frowned in concern. "Leslie, what is it?" "I don't understand," I said. "I feel on top of the world, yet I've got this terrible feeling of anticlimax." That's just how it goes. I forget what it's called in psych, but it's like a real thing. It's like a post event, I don't know, something. Anyway, it's like let down. And it's because you've been like gearing at this pace for so long, and there's been so much anxiety, and then finally when it's over, it's like, and all that energy is just, and it's just very normal. It doesn't mean a damn thing. Ronald's big frame loomed beside. "Okay, what is it? I don't understand." "Of course you have, my dear," he said, a gentle giant talking to me like a father. "Think of it. For a year and 2 months of your whole life has been about giving birth to this dream. You worked so hard for it, above and beyond the call of duty. Now the work is done, and there's nothing left for you to do. You aren't needed anymore. The dream is born. It's alive. Now just enjoy it." Yeah. The clouds cleared. I was being silly, I knew it. I smiled up at him. "Thank you," I said. That's what I needed to hear. To the strains of "When the Saints Go Marching In," I walked across the grass with Wonald beside me. There was a spring in my step. For one brief moment of self-delusion, I believed everything was going to be all right after all. All right. This chapter 20 is entitled "The Palace and Madame Vasso." Vasso. The first time the Duchess of York invited me to Buckingham Palace, Ronald said, "You must curtsy to her. When she's in the palace, that's the form. It's expected of you." "Oh, God," I groaned. "Must I?" Sarah had been most insistent that I should visit her at her offices in the palace. I suspect it made her feel rather grand. In all, I would go there 3 times, each time, despite her constant avowal of friendship, being made to feel that she was showing off a little. But curtsying, that was carrying protocol a little too far. "It's the form," the Major replied. "All right," I said reluctantly. "If it's expected, I'll do it." Of course it's expected. Like, she's not in her own home. It's different in her own home. But obviously, there's other people around. Like, so you have to do the thing when you're in the place, right? Guess what, guys? I took the Rolls Royce. It was the first time I had ever been beyond the great gates, and I felt that I should arrive in style. I wanted to discuss the 1992 ladies' polo tournament and enlist her support. It was still only November 1991, but Sarah's diary was filling up rapidly several months in advance, and it was important to stake my claim early. I had moved to a basement flat in Fulham and drove the Rolls Royce through Belgravia to the private entrance. Was her home ever taken? Because she's talking about being, I don't know if she's living in a flat or if that's the office. I just don't know. To the private entrance at the side of the palace, as she had directed, stopping by the gate for a uniformed policeman to tick my name off of a list. He eyed the car, saluted, and waved me on into the inner courtyard. Yes, I'm sure he eyed the car, Leslie Player. at the freaking palace where they drive Rolls Royces. It's like, a Rolls Royce. Oh, a silver spur. Wow. Good grief. After a short wait in an anteroom that reminded me of a doctor's surgery, I was escorted by an elderly footman to an antiquated iron cage lift which rattled up 3 floors with painful slowness. The Duke and Duchess of York had separate suites of offices on this floor. To reach Sarah, I was led along an endless corridor over a red carpet which stretched forever until it vanished into the distance. The aged retainer made the journey seem longer, but it gave me plenty of time to take in the ornate chests and cabinets that lined the walls. The silence was so intense that the shuffle of our feet on the carpet sounded like sandpaper. Then I jumped at a sudden flurry, and there was Sarah leaping out into the corridor with a whoop to give me a hearty hug and a kiss on the cheek. "Come into my parlor," she said with a theatrical leer. The retainer bowed and shuffled off, much to my relief that the old chap hadn't succumbed to a heart attack. Sarah's chambers were comprised of a traditional lounge with family photos on the shelves, a large office with 2 desks, one for Jane, her secretary, the other for her, and a connecting bedroom with its ensuite bathroom. I remembered my instructions and started to bend in a formal curtsy. If you're not used to such calisthenics, I can assure you it isn't as easy as it looks. Sarah grabbed my arm. "What on earth do you think you're doing?" she demanded. I said, "Your father told me." "Oh, God," she interrupted. "Dad's. Forget it. Don't you ever curtsy to me, Leslie. You're my friend. Understand?" I nodded. She went on. "Employees curtsy. You don't." She eyed me fiercely, and then we both burst out laughing. "I'll have a word with Ronald later," I assured her. "So will I," said his daughter. "Sometimes I don't know what gets into him." We sat down in 2 comfortable old armchairs, which had obviously seen a lot of use over the years. Buckingham Palace was steeped in history, and so was its furniture. Sarah looked at me for a long moment, then said, "I'm glad to have this opportunity to talk privately about Dad's. I'm worried about him." She paused, momentarily uncomfortable. Then, "He's not happy at home. I just want to know how you feel about the whole thing and where you see your relationship going." I met her gaze. "I've been very honest with your father, Sarah. I've told him I'll never marry him. I'm not in love with him. And if he ever leaves his wife and children, I will not be there for him. I've told him all that." I allowed the words to sink in. Then I added quietly, "Don't forget that I come from a broken home, too." Sarah nodded. She understood. "I know. But don't you think you and Dad's can ever be together?" I said, "Sarah, no, I don't think we could." "Maybe one day," her voice trailed off. Then the old Sarah reasserted herself. "Love will prevail. If you and Dad's are meant to be together, you will be. And I fully support you. I just want you to be happy. I do too. You know I do." We left it there for the moment, and while we were being so open, I took the opportunity to bring up another sensitive subject that had been on my mind. How much you want to bet it's going to be about Steve Wyatt? I liked Sarah. I felt protective toward her, and I did not approve of her liaison with Stephen Wyatt, but who was I to make any judgment? She had no idea of my involvement with him, not then. I had already suggested an idea to Ronald, and I knew he had mentioned it to his daughter. Now I said, "About my flat. You're very welcome to use it, you know." "What?" She smiled back at me. "Dad's told me. It is really a kind offer, but it's too dangerous. I gather it's a basement, and there are only 2 exits. If I was caught, I couldn't run anywhere, could I?" She realized I knew about Stephen. "It seems to me that things are getting a bit difficult for you," I said, mentioning no names. "I just thought I'd let you know it's there if you want it." All right, what's going on here? What sort of web is she spinning? Because this is the woman who was like, "I'm in love with Steve Wyatt." You don't go from that to being like, "You two can use my apartment as your love nest." Okay? That's crazy town. Run. Sarah leaned across and laid her hand on mine. "Thank you for the offer. I won't forget it, but I'll sort something else out." And she did. Cadogan Square was proving too hazardous, but John Bryan's flat in Shane Place turned out to be an ideal alternative, as Ronald revealed to me later. I changed the subject to the official reason for my being there. Sarah studied the rough drafts of the pamphlets I had prepared and checked dates in her diary in the office next door. "Patron to the ILPA. I can't stand polo, to be honest, but okay, yes, it'll be fun, and I know it will help you." She agreed to everything I asked. She would attend the international ball I'd planned for July and the final day of the tournament the following month. "That's marvelous," I cried, hugging her instinctively. I knew that with the Duchess of York's name behind us, we couldn't go wrong. At that point, Jane knocked on the door. "Excuse me, Mom. That DHL package to America, are you splitting the contents up? Which one do you want the photographs to go in?" Sarah turned to me. "What do you think, Leslie? Do DHL open packages?" "They're certainly allowed to. Have you got letters going with it, and will it be obvious who they're from?" Yes," she said. "I'm sending Christmas presents to you-know-who, along with some letters and photos. What do you think I should do?" "If I were you, I'd split the photos and the letters and send them separately. And don't put anything in with the packages. You've got to be very careful, Sarah." "Gosh, I'm glad you're here," said the Duchess. "Dad's told me how careful you were. I'm afraid I'm like him sometimes. I act before I think. I'd better go and sort this out." She put her hand on my arm. "Thank you so much. That could have been a right disaster." As I left, she handed me a beautiful bouquet of flowers. "Don't get lost," were her final words as I set off the long trek down the red carpet to the real world outside. In the Rolls, heading for my office in the city, I pulled into a parking spot and rang the major. "How did it go?" he asked eagerly. "Ronald," I said, "don't ever ask me to curtsy to your daughter again." I went back to Buckingham Palace for 2 further visits, and to Sunninghill a great deal more. We talked of everything, Sarah and I. And when on one occasion I mentioned my broken marriage, she started quizzing me intensely about what it was like to go through a separation. "I can't recommend it," I told her dryly. "It just drains both of you." "How do you cope?" she asked. "I mean, with your friends. They don't want to take sides, do they? It must be very hard for them, too." "Oh, it is," I assured her. "Very hard indeed. I think those weeks were probably the lowest point of my life." She stared at me intently with a searching blue gaze. At last she said, "All I know is that I don't want to sell myself out." "Tell me about self-hypnosis," Sarah said one day as we sat around the fire at Sunninghill Park. I guess they must be having fires all the time now, now that Leslie got them going. Outside, the raw November wind was sighing through the trees, sending spurts of rain sputtering across the windows. It was a day for warm fires and talk of other worlds. "Go on," she urged. "Tell me how you do it." I had already mentioned my interest in the subject, and now told her about a course I had taken some years before. Now she leaned forward eagerly as I collected my thoughts and began. "Well, first you need a safe place where you won't be disturbed. Lock the door, take the phone off the hook, then lie down." "Yes?" I had her undivided attention. "Then you count from 5 down to 1 aloud and very slowly. When you reach 1, you're in a state of self-hypnosis, and that's when you say to yourself, 'Deeper and deeper,' and repeat it. Now comes the important bit. You must never use a negative phrase. Words like don't, can't, and won't are out. Instead, you say to yourself, 'I am totally positive.'" Sarah was spellbound. "How on earth do you make yourself come out of it? You tell yourself you're going up, up, that you're getting closer, closer, that you're becoming more aware. Then you count from 1 to 5, and you're back." I beamed at her. "It's really very interesting and refreshing. You must try it sometime." "And you," said Sarah, "have got to meet Madame Vasso." Madame Vasso was a middle-aged Greek mystic who ran a stall in an indoor market in Islington, North London, where she told fortunes, read tarot cards, and promised help for all your problems, no matter how big or small. The house where she practiced healing was in nearby Southgate Road, a neat flat on a busy street bordered by Victorian terraced houses with bright murals of windmills and plants painted on the wall by her front door. Madame Vasu was a small, dark-haired woman with sparkling black eyes who had learned her powers of relaxation from her granny in the harbor village of something in Greece. Nefpaktos? I'm so bad at this. The Duchess of York had consulted her on several occasions for back and neck pains, as well as for advice on matters of the heart, and pronounced her absolutely marvelous, and she had sent her father along, and Ronald swore by her too. Sarah had already told me about some of the alternative medical treatment she had pursued, especially in her struggle to lose weight. She talked of Joe the Toe, no relation to a certain John Bryan, but a zone therapist named Joseph Corvo, who massaged pressure points in the body to promote well-being. Then there was homeopath Gudrun Johnson, who introduced her to acupuncture, and the Hay diet, which works on the principle of not mixing certain proteins and starches in the same meal. She used the Alexander technique To improve her posture, if you ever need to fall asleep, just go and look up Alexander Technique videos on YouTube and listen. You'll be out in 10 seconds. To improve her posture, and even had her hair analyzed to find out which foods made her gain weight, but Madame Vasso had taken over. With her simple resolve, I make people feel happy. Once Sarah had even had her picked up in a chauffeur-driven Range Rover and brought all the way out to Sunninghill for a consultation that lasted 6 hours. Curious to learn more about this little lady who appeared to exert so much influence on the Duchess of York, I went along to Southgate Road, No. 1, to see for myself. Madame Vasso wore a long black dress with an apron, and she was cooking stew on the stove of her small kitchen when I knocked on the door. Ronald had phoned ahead on my behalf, and she greeted me warmly and ushered me upstairs to the treatment room on the first floor. The room was bare, apart from a large hollow perspex pyramid painted blue, the healing color, and mounted on 4 wooden legs. Madame Vasso sat me on a stool under the pyramid and began massaging my neck, talking all the while in a gentle motherly voice as if she had known me all my life. Madame Vasso was good. I have to say that for her. As her experienced fingers kneaded away at my neck muscles, stretching and relaxing them, her soft voice seemed to fill the space inside the pyramid. So this was what Sarah had experienced. No wonder she was impressed. Madame Vasso was intoning. There's an older man in your life. Be careful, because he is too infatuated with you. But be careful not to chop him off, because he is part of your future. Then she added, there's another man in your future, tall, rich, and famous. You're going to meet him, fall in love with him, and have twin boys. I sat up so sharply I nearly banged my head on the perspex. My God, I thought, that's pretty drastic. Oh, yes. How incredible that Ronald would call ahead for her, and then she would say, there's an older man in your life. Yeah, obviously. I don't think it would take any special powers to figure that out. I left in no doubt that here was a woman of genuine healing powers, so I was less sure of her forecasts. Ronald came through on my car phone. Well, how did you get on? She's lovely, I responded. Tell me more, tell me. Do you really want to know? Yes, what did she really say? I told him. There was a silence. Then he burst out, oh my God, you're going to meet someone else. You're going to have an affair and have babies from someone else. I had never heard him so distraught. Calm down, Ronald. Don't believe everything someone like that tells you. But I do, he said, and I've got something very special I have to give you. Meet me this evening at Claridge's, just for a drink, nothing more. That worried me. Major Ronald Ferguson, that most generous and misguided man, had showered gifts on me almost from the moment we met. There was a St. Christopher medallion, with an inscription on the back in his own handwriting, to my darling, your ever-loving R. He had been insistent then, too, in a note that contained the ominous words, as a warning to you, I need to see you for 5 minutes after the Prince Charles match to give you something. And there were more. 2 Cartier pens, a gold Cartier travel clock, earrings, perfume, a ball gown he bought me in Palm Beach, a polo blazer, a vintage champagne decanter, a painting, the list went on. He even gave me his polo pony, Pacific, which had been a present from Prince Charles, together with the tack and saddle, though my new 4-legged friend remains at Dummer Farm under Ronald's care. I still have the photographs he took one sunny morning of Pacific, such a handsome boy, at the farm, and one picture in particular taken in Ronald's own single bedroom, my white platinum polo baseball cap on his pillow, and below it a cushion with the words, older men make better lovers, embroidered into it. I had tried not to accept the presents without hurting his feelings, but he would have none of it. And now came the last and most extraordinary gift of all, a whistle and a clock which had been in his family for half a century, and obviously meant a great deal to him. In the lounge at Claridge's, he opened a small box and shyly, almost reverently, showed them to me. The tiny gold whistle was attached to the clock, which was also made of gold. Ronald had written out the legend for me. The whistle is 150 years old. It was given to my Uncle Victor by his father, General Algernon Ferguson, in 1914. Victor was killed by a sniper's bullet in 1917, and it went to my father, Andrew, who wore it throughout the last war, when he was awarded 4 medals for gallantry. In 1950, I went to Sandhurst and wore it until 1970, when I left the Army. My grandfather left us the following message. When in moments of crisis, despair, depression, loneliness, or need, blow the whistle to summon my help. You will be blowing for my spirit, soul, and support. For 20 years it was around my neck. I have blown it on several occasions, when you have been away or in moments of doubt and stress. I will miss it quite dreadfully. It has been part of my life for 42 years. If you give your life to someone else, then a tangible part of that life has to go on with your love and spirit. When I die, please give it to your eldest son. Take it now with my sincere and deep love. May it help you in your future life to achieve your dreams. Yowza. And the clock. This sweet little clock was given to me by my grandmother, Margaret Ferguson, when I went to Eton in 1947. It is of enormous sentimental value. Please, when I die, give it to your younger son. My hands were shaking. I can't take these, Ronald, I said in a low voice. They're too precious. The Major pressed them into my hands. That, he said, is why I want you to have them. Well, that's enough for now. Gag. I just want to know, did she ever have twins? Okay, well, off I go. I will see you again soon, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.